Hello and welcome to another episode of Mysteries with a History, where I'll take you on a wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. There's more to this world than most think or believe. Mysteries that stretch back into murky epochs of time, that hint of other realms, other worlds, and other intelligences. We're on this journey together. With each episode, we will peel away the layers to look for the truth. Home of the notorious Bennington Triangle, Vermont is a state which has long been known for what is going on here. That is Jimmy in the background. Jimmy, well, while he is sharing his screen, I will continue with this short intro about Vermont because it includes a bunch of bizarre events, including UFO sightings, Bigfoot encounters, and mysterious disappearances. If that's not odd enough, there are towns and areas said to be subject to ancient native tribal curses. So, to help me out, we already have Jimmy in, but we do not have our most loved co-host, and that's Puck the Puck Wedgie. Jimmy, how's it going? You kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Second most. Oh, man, it's back, Christina.
Yeah, the feedback's a little.
Yeah, that's weird. What? Hey, hold on for a second.
All right. Well, while we do that, we can give the mic to Puck.
Okay, check. Is it okay? I just rebooted my compressors.
Oh, it sounds much better.
Okay, all right. What a great show. Where did you come up with the idea, Christina, for this week's subject?
Well, I must say, dear sir, it was you that inspired me for this week's show due to last week's topic about strange disappearances. Multiple times we spoke about the Bennington Triangle, and I thought, you know what? Let's just talk about Vermont altogether.
Vermont is a trippy place. And I did a bunch of research this week going into it. I got to tell you, for such a tiny little man, they got it going on. They've got it going on. I did. I'm just going to let everybody know. I did a lot of Google Map satellite stuff with Vermont, which is what I was queuing up. Right. And part of it is this. What was that? Well, we're going to find out what that is. And even better. See, I've got this going. Oh, what? Yeah. So I've got that coming up. But Vermont, man, from Albany to Bennington. And you jump around, and now it's not Albany, New York, everybody. This is Albany, Vermont. At this big, 4 houses. More's going on in that little man. And they do have in Albany 4 houses and a mortuary. Yeah,
you have to have one. Might as well.
You've got to have a mortuary on Route 14. Okay, so great subject, and it's freezing cold here. I've got a sweater on. I don't know about you, but I've been like this all day, just trying to thaw out.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. It's really, really cold. Today, can I share something with everybody, just real quick? Little. So everybody knows that I live in this weird part of the world where all this research and aerospace and crazy stuff goes down, and I talk a lot about noises and aircraft and stuff. So today I'm working. It doesn't matter. I'm outside. I'm in the backyard, and I'm like, man, what? But here's the thing. It's engine testing, right? So they did it like 3 times. It's really loud, really strange sounding jet engines. Nothing's taking off. So I go and I jump in the Jeep. I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna see what is being tested out there on the runway. And I'm going to do a documentary on this. So I jumped in the Jeep, drove over there, and I have never. Normally the roads are empty. It's the desert. Action. I got the camo dudes, multiple security trucks on the fence line. There were photographers at the end of the runway, like 6 of them, like aviation dudes with the big lenses. I've never seen that before. So they're out there. And I'm like, what's going? So I videotaped the whole thing and went up the street and came back, got followed. Yeah, it was really trippy. And I made it back and saw a couple of, and it was it was a very busy day in the neighborhood today. It was pretty whack. So I'm going to put a quick video together. I'll get it up tomorrow so you guys can experience what it's like to go and mix with top secret aircraft and security forces. It was trippy.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Action-packed moment right before the show.
Well, Vermont is also incredibly action-packed.
Yeah, and straight to it. Let's get straight. Where do you want to start? Can we go? Okay. Can I make a suggestion?
No, I'm going to start first. Vermont is derived from 2 French words, Mont and Vert, meaning green mountain. And the name was suggested by Dr. Thomas Young in 1777. I actually had no idea, mainly because I don't speak French at all. But I was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. That was nice.
Okay.
That's where we're starting, Jimmy.
I was going to start further back than that, but if we go into the Bennington Triangle and things, jumping back to that era when the state was formed, there was stuff already happening. There was stuff already happening in the area. This is not a modern situation. We have the indigenous cultures there. We had the French. We had towns that were formed and disappeared. We were talking about that, right? Disappearing town. We got one in Vermont, and monsters, lake monsters,
freaky monsters, all kinds of monsters,
wild men, things like Bigfoot. It just all going down when the state was founded, and so I'm not so sure if it's people's imagination. I think that there's something else going on here. We have curses, just craziness going on in Vermont from the very beginning when the state was formed and founded.
So let's kind of talk about the Bennington Triangle. While last week we talked about a few disappearances that happened there, there's a bunch of other just weird things. And the phrase Bennington Triangle was coined by Joseph A. Cithro in 1992, who said the area shares characteristics with the Bridgewater Triangle, which neighboring Massachusetts. And that's where we get Puck the Pukwudgie from the Bridgewater Triangle.
Right.
So it's stated in his book, Passing Strange, True Tales of New England Hauntings and Horrors, that Native Americans refused to set foot on the Glastonbury Mountain unless they were burying their dead. And they believed that the whole mountain was cursed land because the 4 winds met there in an eternal struggle. So while most refer to this as myth, there is some truth to it because the wind pattern on that mountain is so erratic that weather changes suddenly and plants actually grow at pretty odd angles. And I found that really fascinating.
It is fascinating. And when you do your research into this area, one of the things that it's like a fallback point is the crazy weather, right? I mean, it is something that is there. It is there. The crazy weather patterns that are here, and it is mentioned by researchers all over the place over time. But the weather patterns are also talked about through Vermont history. This goes back a long ways.
It does. And there's another myth attributed to the native people of Vermont is that they believed an enchanted stone among the cairns on top of the mountain could swallow a man whole. Now, I actually had to look up what cairns were. It's spelled Cairns. And I'm going to share an image here because when you hear the name, you're like, I don't think we're on the same page
Oh,
here.
we are. Show it. Show a Karen Stone.
All right, here we go. This is what we're looking at.
Is that nuts?
It's pretty darn cool.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Could you imagine? Look, we need to move on. There's so much to cover. But what if you bought a house? Okay, so I'm with a friend in this area. This is about 30 years ago, and he had bought this house, and he goes, "Now you got to check this out. The house is 300 years old." I was like, "It's what?" Right? Yes. And then this part of the house, it was pretty good size. And he goes, "I want to show you this. See this wall?" I said, "Yeah." It's 300 years old.
What?
And I was like, "Okay. All right." It kind of, anyway, he goes, "And check this out. This stone pile over here came with the house. Look, just like this. Just like that. It's 300." I'm like, "Dude, is that a tomb? What is that? Is that a burial site?" And he bought, it's on his property. Now, if you bought a property, right, Christina, and this was on it, what would go through your mind?
Definitely a burial site. I think
Yeah.
that'd be my first thought, and then kind of I would inspect it afterward, attempting to find some other features or details that I can make another conclusion on, but that would be my very first thought. But what are they actually, Jimmy?
I don't know. I don't know. And they are all over the place. I'm telling you, my friend who was in the music industry bought this house that had stonework like this all over the property, and it was next to a creek. I thought it was uber cool, right, to have a stone wall that is, it's hundreds of years old on the property, and you could tell it wasn't, it wasn't quarried and formed stone. No, it was like this. And he had told me that the stones came from the creek, right? The creek that was on his property. And they brought the stones up and built this wall. And then they had this stone pile in the back that looked just like this. And if my memory says it was covered in grass too as well. But it looked like, it looked like a tomb.
It does.
Right
And
there.
well, the natives believed that they could swallow a man whole.
It was crazy. It
I
was
think
crazy. And I said, "So what are you going to do?" "We're going to leave it." It's like, man, that's a conversation piece, man, right there. But yes, and we're going to get back to this as we continue to talk, because we're going to talk specifically about a house, and they're up throughout that period. There was a lot of, I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of humans that were being smuggled. Chinese, slaves, other things that were happening in the Vermont area. And we're going to talk more about that and what possibly this may have to do with spirits.
yeah, it is pretty it's Vermont, while it's not incredibly populated, it only has about 600,000 people in the entire state, give or take a bit. There's a lot of strange things that happen in that entire state. And I almost want to call it a town. And it sounds so terrible, but it's just so there's hardly any people on it. But I think we should kind of start with the Bennington Monster while we're still on the conversation about the Bennington Triangle. What do you say, Jimmy?
Yeah. Let's go straight there, because the Bennington Monster, we're talking about a long amount of history here. A lot of people believe that the trouble that is happening in and around this area is a supernatural one. And for 2 centuries now, over 2 centuries, reports suggest that the woods are home to the Bennington Monster. And some say it's very similar to Bigfoot. One story says that a driver of a stagecoach, now listen to this, a stagecoach and its passengers reported a sighting of a hairy beast in 1800. We're in 2022. That's over 200 years ago. A sudden downpour, rain, caused them to pull the coach over. And as the road had washed out, while they waited for the rain to stop, the driver noticed an enormous footprint in the mud. He went to ask one of the passengers what he thought when the other passengers on board saw a large, hairy creature that had no footwear, right? It's the rain, it's the mud, no shoes. The beast pushed the stagecoach over on its side and ran away into the woods. That was in 1800.
And luckily, no one was harmed from the records that were collected. But as you had mentioned, people classified this entity as a Bigfoot, even though it only stood about 6 feet tall, which for the stories that we've come across of previous sightings of Bigfoot, they easily range 8 to 9 feet. So like a 6 foot Bigfoot is just like your average man in
But
some respects, but just incredibly hairy.
superpowers, pushed over a
Superpowers.
stagecoach. I'm 6 foot tall. I'm not tipping that over. No, it's not going to happen. So
And if
uh,
there's people inside, obviously it only makes it heavier.
now one of the there's that, and then we have the wild man, and this
Ah.
is an incredible story. I want everybody to listen to this. This happened in 1892. A man working at the sawmill in Glastonbury. By the way, Glastonbury, messed up place, man. Messed up place. We'll be talking about that in a bit. So they're working at the sawmill, and in Glastonbury, one man hit another man over the head with a rock and killed him. Okay, authorities caught the killer and put him in an insane asylum.
That's right.
However, he escaped. That's right. Rumors spread that the killer had gone to live in the mountains and became a hairy, deranged, wild man. Some stories say that he would, at times, travel. Are you ready for this? Christina, cover your ears. He would travel down from the mountains
Yeah.
and expose himself. He would open his coat to the women in Bennington and Glastonbury and then run back up into the hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, what's really interesting, well, actually, it's not interesting. It's actually terrifying, to be honest. But also, what he would do was that if there were any other people around these women, he would swing a pistol around to scare off anybody else. And while he would expose himself, he never actually did anything, and he would just run back into the forest into his dwelling.
Now, what do you make of now? This is this is a turn of the century, right? Late 1800s, turn of the century. These repeated accounts and reports of a guy coming down from the mountains, exposing himself to women, and then turning around and running back. These reports go back to 1890, 91, 92, to the turn of the century. It sounds like something modern, doesn't it? But no, these reports go back almost 100, 150 years.
It's traumatizing.
It's very
That's why people go to prison for something like that, because it is forever engraved in your mind. And it's illegal. It is a crime.
It would traumatize me, let alone the women of Glastonbury in 1890. I don't know if I could handle something like that. But these reports about the wild man go back a long ways. And, we hear, I had Dave Schrader on the show the other night talking about
Schrader night.
Schrader night, the escaped, lunatics from the insane asylum, running. This is an actual story. I mean, this is a killer that escaped from an insane asylum, was never caught, and is hiding in the mountains outside of town. Frightening.
And I, when I came across that story, I was like, should we even cover it? And obviously, the answer was going to be yes, because it is a part of the Vermont history. But at the same time, I'm just like, it's a bit much.
Yeah, it's a bit much. I read 5 different accounts covering about a 10-year period of this story about different women reporting, this crazy dude, that's showing up in town. And so that's when the story repeated itself. I call it vetting. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories that all talk about the same thing. Yeah, it needs to be talked about. We got a killer on the loose in the mountains. Yes. Now the disappearances in the Bennington Triangle.
Right.
We covered a few of them last week.
We did, but there's still a few more. And we can also touch on the ones that we spoke about last week for those that didn't watch that episode of Strange Disappearances. But it seems kind of like one of the first ones that kind of set everything off was Carol Herrick.
Carl Herrick.
See, I know, like, it looks like Carl, but it's not spelled like Carl. So I was like, should I say Carol? And like, it could be an androgynous name, which I was talking about yesterday.
Listen, my grandfather, his name was Carol, right? Okay. We called him Cal. Right?
That is a good nickname.
We called him Cal. It was Grandpa Cal. Okay. But his name was Carol. And Carol here is also Carl in different reports too as well. So I get it. My grandfather didn't dig Carol. He went with Cal. And so I remember my grandmother, Cal. Yeah, it was never Carol. You heard Cal coming from the kitchen. Anyway, Carl, Cal Herrick, 1943.
That's right.
On a hunting trip with his cousin, Henry, 10 miles northeast of Glastonbury. Okay. The two separated. Carl never returned. It's that simple. Henry found Carl's body 3 days later in a bizarre scene. His ribs had punctured his lungs, and the post-mortem indicated that something had squeezed him to death. Is that nuts? Henry reported that there were large bear prints found around the corpse. However, experts say a bear would not squeeze a man to death. That was in 1943.
And this, from the research that I've done, I haven't come across many stories like that one where a body is found and it looks like he was squeezed to death. And what's very interesting is that there were mysterious footprints nearby the body.
Yeah. What a way to go, too. Crushed, right? Your lungs, your ribs are piercing. That's a nasty way to go. That's a nasty way to go, where you can't breathe. That's man. And then we have the case of Mitty Rivers.
Jimmy, you're speeding through these so fast.
We're already a half an hour into the show, and I've got an entire multimedia presentation coming up that Christina doesn't even know about.
Coming to you live.
Oh man, yeah, because we have 6 cases here, 6 disappearances. We didn't talk about Carl Herrick last week.
No, we didn't.
We didn't talk about Mitty Rivers last week. Mitty Rivers, this was a year and a half later, 1945. She was a vastly, he was a vastly experienced outdoorsman, and few people knew the backwoods better than he did. One day, he was leading a hunting party in a place called Hell Hollow.
Nice.
When he, yeah, I know, right. When he didn't tie his string to himself and everybody else in the hunting party.
And that's where his mistake lies. You got to have that string, Jimmy.
Always got to have the twine. I've got it in the back of the Jeep. Right now, I have got string.
So important.
Just for this, because the hunting party, he's leading the hunting party. And I talked about this last week. Christina, this is no joke. Do not let people get out of your sight. Don't do it. You know, you're going to go up, you're going to round the corner, and somebody's not going to be there, which is what happened here. All right. He got ahead of the group. The hunters realized that he was getting too far ahead. They tried to catch up. He was no longer there.
Dang.
That's it. And so now they freak out. He is gone. They figured, because he was the outdoorsman, he was leading this hunting party, that he would come back to them and he would reunite with the group. But nobody saw or heard from him again. After a long, thorough search of the area, the only thing anyone found of Rivers was one single spent rifle cartridge. That's it. Nobody discovered any evidence of an animal attack. His body is still missing to this day.
What do you think happened?
You know, we're talking about an area that is full of the supernatural and the paranormal, and these stories, these accounts, they go back for hundreds of years, Christina. This is just another one of a string of high strangeness and disappearances in the Bennington, Glastonbury area.
You're absolutely right. NeuroStream, thank you so much for the super sticker. And Jessica as well, thank you so much for supporting the RV fund and the ramen fund. I spit went down the wrong pipe, and oh my gosh, does it hurt?
Okay?
I am totally fine. Thank you for asking.
Okay?
I think I'm going to be fine. But talking about these strange disappearances, which there are a few more that we will cover, we touched on it briefly last week, but there are so many potential reasons to why that 2% of strange disappearances happen. Did they walk into a portal? Was it a really incredible murder where they weren't able to find any of the evidence?
Right.
Were they abducted by extraterrestrials? Which is one part that we didn't cover last week. Could it have been that they were taken by Bigfoot? Well, and while this can once again sound outlandish to so many people, it really is something that we have to consider when we're looking at those super strange disappearances. It's only about 2% of all the ones that happen. Jimmy, thank you so much for the super sticker and supporting the RV.
Ramen.
Oh, is it for ramen?
That's for ramen.
Which I know you had some ramen before today's show, and that's the way to do it. I also know Hides was eating noodles and actually eating and not driving today. I saw your comment, Hides. And if you're going to watch or listen to this show, it is mandatory to have it be accompanied with noodles.
So mandatory. I did fresh shrimp with red chili flakes and sauteed in butter, got them really hot and spicy into the noodles. I took a picture, and that was a Better Homes and Gardens food moment. That was a pretty happening picture. But yeah, burned the hot, the spicy, so good.
On my desk, I need to have my laptop, my mouse, some pens, and I have to have ramen on my desk in case those moments I'm too lazy to walk 3 feet to the kitchen.
Camera. Okay, we got 2. Is that hot and spicy?
This one is ghost pepper, amazing deliciousness. And this one is currently my new favorite cup noodle. That's not spicy at all. It's curry flavored, and I 1000% recommend it to literally anyone that enjoys noodles.
I'm not a curry guy.
But this one, Jimmy, it's going to change your mind.
That ghost pepper one, though, that looks pretty interesting.
It's ghost pepper with black noodles.
I mean,
Super good.
one of the best things to do. We got to move on. I'm going to get to back to the list here, but one of my favorite things to do is to watch YouTube videos of the contest of spicy ramen.
Oh, jeez.
The hot ramen challenge. I mean, it's like watching people drop off the camera. I love it. And so is that one? That's one of those, right? Is that one of those that cause people to drop off?
Yeah, this one does make me cry, but the flavor is amazing if your taste buds survive the first bite.
Right.
But it tastes so good.
I'll check it out. I'll get a delivery. Okay, so Paul Weldon. Paul Weldon is one of the most famous events that happened there in Bennington. Paula Weldon. She was a sophomore student at Bennington University. On the first day of December 1946, the 18-year-old decided to head out for a short hike. So she hitchhiked the long trail in Glastonbury Mountains in the afternoon. Her outfit included a lightweight red jacket that was not ideal for the extended walk. Therefore, many doubt she intended to be out for very long. A couple that went out for a stroll on the long trail last saw the teenager approximately 100 yards ahead of them on the path. They watched her as she turned a corner. There it is, right? There it is. But when they caught up to the same spot, she was gone. Weldon's red jacket would have been hard to miss. They knew what they were looking for. They couldn't find her. She didn't show up for class the next day. An extensive search began. The search party consisted of aircraft, over 1,000 people, and the FBI. However, they found absolutely nothing.
And there was even a $5,000 reward, and which is amazing at that time period. And this is a very pretty young lady, and I am so grateful that many people attempted to look for her, but it's incredibly unfortunate that no one was able to find her. And my question is, why was the FBI involved? And this is a very sad story to begin with, but usually with missing people, the FBI isn't always involved.
No. That's a federal situation.
Maybe they wanted that $5,000 reward.
$5,000 back then was all the money. By the way, that was that's a large sum.
You buy a house with that money.
That's a large sum today, but back then that was a lot of money. Then we have Paul Jeffson, right? Paul Jeffson, the most tragic disappearance of all of it, was probably 8-year-old Paul Jeffson. We talked about this case last week. This was the case of the pigs. Yes, they were and they were taking care of pigs. And his mother was there. It told him to stay in the truck. She's off tending to the pigs. That's it. She gave him strict instructions: stay in the truck. But when she came back, he was gone. Now, just like Paula Weldon, here's another twist to this case. He had a bright red jacket on. Yeah, something that would be hard to miss in the surrounding forest, and but no, it didn't help. After another large-scale search, nobody found anything. Tracker dogs aided in the search effort, but the trail went cold. Like the others, the child vanished off the face of the earth without a trace. Local superstitions include the belief that it was just bad luck to wear red while in the forest. Unfortunately for Weldon and Jeffson, this appeared to be the case.
And this 8-year-old boy made mention to his father a few days prior about how badly he actually wanted to go into the Glastonbury Mountain to hike it, to just investigate it. And his father mentioned in an interview that it was as if the mountains were calling his son to go to the mountains. And he believes that he went and he never returned. And that's what's very eerie about that location in particular, is that you have a lot, truly while it might not sound like many, you have a lot of incredibly strange disappearances happening there, where, for the most part, not all the time, but for a good percentage, those people are not found afterwards. And it makes you question what is going on there.
Now, we talked about Frida Langer last week, too, as well. This was October 1950. She was on a family camping trip, Somerset Reservoir in the Bennington Woods. She and her cousin Herbert decided they would take a hike less than a quarter of a mile into their trek. She slipped and fell into the stream. So she's wet. She decides she's going to go back and change out of her wet clothes. Herbert waited near the stream for her to return. However, she never showed up. When Herbert returned to the camp, he was alarmed to find out that she never even made it back to the camp. They were a quarter mile away from the camp. Her disappearance defied most explanations. Local authorities launched a series of searches for several weeks. The woods became under intense scrutiny. There was a lot of people searching for her. And then they found her body. Her body turned up 7 months after she vanished. She was in a field near the reservoir, and an area that authorities had searched over and over again. Her corpse, unfortunately, was in a state of decomposition. So the cause of death was never determined, and they still don't know. Still don't know what happened. They don't know what happened to her when she disappeared or anything else between the time that they found her body and 7 months prior. They have no idea.
And then you have James Tedford, who exactly 3 years after Paula Weldon had disappeared, James Tedford went missing on December 1st, 1949. And he was visiting his relatives and returned home on a bus when he vanished. And according to witnesses, Tedford was one of the 14 passengers on the bus at the last stop before arriving in Bennington. However, when the bus arrived in Bennington, he had seemingly vanished. His belongings were still in the luggage rack, and an open bus timetable was on his vacant seat. No one had seen him get off the bus, and he didn't disembark in Bennington either. So neither the disappearance, it was investigated, but no one had seen anything, nor did they report any suspicious incidents either. And out of all of the ones that we've covered regarding strange disappearances.
Well, hold on. Let me say, there's one other point, though, to this case. Well, two. Number one, all 14 passengers and the bus driver said the exact same thing. We saw a dude in his seat sleeping. He was on the bus. Nobody saw him leave. That's an important part about this case, because some have suggested, well, maybe he never got on the bus to begin with. Well, that wouldn't make any sense. Why were his, suitcases and his belongings on the bus? So
Right.
He obviously got on the bus. He was seen by the 14 passengers, all saying the same thing. Dude was snoring in his seat. He was sleeping. He was there. The other part to this case was his wife disappeared. He came back after World War II, shows up at their house. She's gone. His family, nobody knew anything.
He was devastated.
Yeah, devastated and lonely. So yeah, this is one of the strangest cases. I mean, if you're going to go into high strangeness and the paranormal, this case has it all.
Yeah, that one is the number one strangest case when it comes to really almost any strange disappearance, not just in the Bennington Triangle. Oracle, thank you so much for the super sticker and supporting the ERV fund. I appreciate that. So are there any other cases you want to talk about regarding the Bennington Triangle before we continue?
Yeah, no, let's continue.
All right. Also, Deranged Lunatic, thank you so much for the super sticker. All right, let's go, Jimmy.
UFOs. Let's go UFOs.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go UFOs.
Okay. I have some notes here. So there have been more than 2,800 sightings in Vermont since the 1940s. Now, there have been a few documented sightings, but I would like to keep in mind it's been mentioned before that Vermont might be the second state that has the most UFO sightings. The best time to see them is in July, which is a really interesting statistic, keeping in mind their population compared to literally every other state minus Wyoming.
Yeah, no, Washington minus Washington. Washington being number one.
Well,
Oh,
what I'm getting at is like Wyoming having like the lowest
right.
population.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
least
yes,
people.
yes.
Yeah.
Good point. I'm sorry, I
And
didn't
then
mean
you
to
have
say
Alaska as well, which is another place that doesn't have a huge population, but an incredible amount of UFO sightings.
88 sightings per 100,000 residents. The only state with
Pretty
more
good.
is Washington. And that's crazy. The National UFO Reporting Center does say that July ranks as the best month to spot a UFO in Vermont. Check this out: 603 sightings filed during the month of July on average. That's nuts. Vermont ranks top of the list in all of New England, ahead of Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. Vermont, number 2 in the United States, the number 2 state in the entire country, if you want to go and see UFOs, and then head there in July. It's a guarantee.
So not only are you getting just beautiful scenery there, I mean, Vermont is a stunning place from what I've seen, but then also you're getting UFO sightings. And I have a fun fact for you, Jimmy, regarding Vermont.
Go.
It is one of 4 states that made billboards illegal. Billboards are illegal in Vermont,
Oh, how beautiful is that?
right? Along with Hawaii, Alaska, and Maine.
The 4 states that nobody goes to. Well, Hawaii. But nobody goes to Hawaii. Only rich people. So, yeah.
I found that really interesting because for every other state, when you're driving on the highway, you see billboards everywhere.
You
And
see
I'm thinking,
billboards.
can
Yeah.
I imagine just like casually driving on the main highway without seeing a billboard and actually enjoying the scenery? The answer is no to that.
There's too many good jokes here. I'm just going to move forward. Well, I
Well,
mean, look, an advertiser is going to pay for billboards where there are cars driving by,
that's right.
right? There's no cars in Vermont. There's no cars in Maine. All they have in Hawaii is golf carts. And Alaska, that's snowmobiles. Where are you going to have billboards in the middle of the frozen tundra? So that's it. Any other state with cars. Okay, moving on. But yeah, that's a really good. I did not know that. I did not know.
It blew my mind as well.
I love that whole area. I'm talking about New Hampshire, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont in the fall. The colors. Oh man, there's nothing like that. There is nothing like the colors of the trees. It's just incredible. So why would you want to mess that up with billboards?
Exactly. You wouldn't.
No, put a billboard on one of those trees.
No.
Okay. Moving on. One of the states first recorded. Now, I've got a little nugget for you, Christina. One of the state's first recorded sightings occurred in 1961 above East Mountain, in which personnel at North Concord Air Force Station reported a strange object that remained stationary in the sky for 18 minutes. What's interesting here? It may have been related to Betty and Barney Hill because their reported alien abduction that took place in New Hampshire on the same evening. Dun, dun, dun. Bennington. I'm just telling you. Everything goes down in Bennington, Vermont. That's crazy, isn't it? That's pretty nuts. Is that a coincidence? 18 minutes. This is a military sighting, by the way. It's not civilians. Meanwhile, right? Yeah, think about that. New Hampshire, Betty and Barney Hill, same night.
I didn't see that correlation there.
I'm the bringer of knowledge. That's what I do. Okay, what's next?
Should we talk about Champ, the lake monster?
Yes, Champ can sell some T-shirts.
You think so? I've never seen a Champ T-shirt, but I would like to see one.
Okay, you want to see one?
Yeah, a T-shirt of like Nessie of Vermont. Absolutely, because as you know, Jimmy, and a few others, I have a very I like Nessie. I went to Scotland when I was young and I wanted to look for Nessie and I didn't find him. And ever since then, looking at all these other mysteries in other states, this is a reoccurring theme. We're seeing a bunch of different relatives of Nessie in different states right here in the United States. And Vermont is no exception. We have Champ going on today.
There it is. Oh, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, hold on a minute here. Oh, I've got it on the wrong screen.
Oh no.
Put it up here. Let me put it over here. And then I go here. There it is. Champy, Lake Monster, Nessie of America t-shirt. There you go. Get your own.
I wanna see Champ have a battle with the one in Salt Lake City, Utah, the Salt Lake monster. I want them to have a battle.
Champ is cute. The sightings going back hundreds of years.
That's right.
This is
early as the 18th century.
Yeah. Crazy town.
So the indigenous people that have long lived and hunted near Lake Champlain, the Abenaki and the Iroquois have their own legends about a large creature inhabiting the lake, which looked like a large horned serpent or a giant snake. The Abenaki term for this creature is a Gitaskog, and I probably said that wrong, and I'm so sorry. But sightings go as far back as the 18th century, where you had one sighting from Samuel de Champlain, which is who the lake is named after this guy, and he mentioned in his journal that there's also a great abundance of many species of fish. Amongst them, there is one called by the natives, the name that I just mentioned, which is of various lengths. But the largest of them, as their tribes have told me, are from 8 to 10 feet long. And I have seen some 5 feet long, which were as big as my thigh and had a head as large as my two fists, with a snout 2 feet and a half long and a double row of sharp, dangerous teeth. Its body has a good deal of shape of the pike, but it is protected by scales of a silvery gray color and so strong that a dagger could not pierce them. Historians think that Champ is probably a garfish, but Champlain's description of the creature sounds much larger than the usual garfish. But this isn't the first sighting that happened. There have been a bunch afterward. Jimmy, which one do you have for us?
I don't have any. What I do know was the story. I don't have specifics on Champ, but I have heard about Champ my entire life. And so when it comes to Nessie and the Loch Ness monster, right, and people, Champ, right, is right up there and gets talked about in the same conversations. Mm-hmm. So there's something going on. Is that a real photograph? Where'd you get this?
Online. It's just more of a visual aid. than anything else.
Oh man, I thought that was Champ. I was going to say, man, that's okay. All right. But yeah, Champ. I've grown up with Champ. I've heard the stories, lots of TV. It's been covered since I was a little kid,
That's
and
right.
I think there is something to the story. I
It,
really do.
well, in 1992, sightings totaled to about 180, and there was this kind of new wave of sightings in the 21st century, which numbered in double digits each summer and prompted interest from Japanese television, The Today Show, NBC's Unsolved Mysteries, and Fox Network's sightings. In 2003, the Discovery Channel did a special on America's Loch Ness Monster in the wake of three new sightings by June of that year, 2003.
Yep.
And Champ has also been written about in Discover magazine and in scholarly journals. So it's taken seriously in Vermont. People really do want to understand what's lurking in their waters. Is it just a mundane type of fish, or would it be something that we would truly classify as a monster? And then my next question would be, Jimmy, what would you classify as a monster? Just anything that's big and scary looking?
If you can have a freshwater eel, that grows and grows and grows and grows, and it gets seen. And it could be something as simple as that. Could it be a large fish? Something it has been seen over the years, and there's something going on there. I don't, is it a dinosaur left over from 65 million years ago? That's always a stretch. Is it something else? Is it paranormal? Is it a monster? I don't know. But the sightings have gone on for centuries. So yeah, there's something there, and Champ is real. I just don't know what Champ is.
No, but there is one more detail I would like to mention before we continue, and that is about showman P.T. Barnum, right? The one who created the famous Bailey and Barnum Circus. So he offered a reward of $50,000 in 1873, which is about today about $1,200,000.
That's a lot
Yes.
of bread. That's a lot of ducks. That's a lot of champs
I
quacking
mean,
in the pond.
for him to offer that much money for someone to capture this creature and to put it in his circus is incredible. As we know, it was never captured and he never gave away that much money. But just imagine the amount of people that just jumped into the water head first, attempting to look for Champ.
If I was a billionaire, I think I would do that. $50 million for Bigfoot, right? I mean, let's throw some dosh into the game. Let's go. Let's put $50 million on Nessie, on Champ. $50 million bucks. And let's see what happens. I would do it. Man, I need to win the lottery. I do.
Well, with the lottery, do you have to pay taxes on that? I think it's like 20% or something like that. And that blew my
50%.
mind.
Yeah, 50%. 50%. And I'll pay it. You
It's
win
still a lot of money afterward, that's for sure.
a lot of money, man. You win $100 million and you got $50 million in the bank. That's a lot of money. I would give it all away for Bigfoot. I would do it. I would do it. I would do it. I would 50. I would
Well,
do it.
as my father has said so many times, if he ever won the lottery, no one would ever know, because then all of these distant relatives would come, all these new best friends would come, and then it would just be havoc from there.
All right. Can we go spooky?
Let's do it.
Let's do the Hayden house.
Oh, this one is spooky. Before we even start, for those in the live chat or listening to this after this live show, how many of you have heard of the Hayden House? This one was new to me and it's pretty freaky.
It's a national historical monument. It is in the National Register. That's right. Difficult to find, but I found it. I did.
Like the
I did.
place, like you found the
I did.
location?
I did. I found the house. I found the house. Now, if you
Do I
want to
share
get
do
into, if
you want
you
me to
want,
share your screen?
no, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yet we
You didn't give
call
me
that.
this.
It's we're hyping. We're hyping it. We're keeping people
Oh,
engaged all the
got
way
it.
to the end of the show. So the last 30 seconds, I'll do the reveal. 30
Okay, okay, okay.
last 30 seconds of the show. But what's the history? I have the spooky history. What's the actual history of the house?
I also have the spooky history of the house, and the people that owned it. I can start there if you like.
I Mine is spookier.
Okay, well then I'm
No,
gonna read mine
I'm just
first.
Christina, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Mine's spookier. Okay.
Okay, you gotta make up your mind. Is it or is it not?
Let me hear your spooky side.
Okay, so the old Hayden house still stands on the outskirts of Albany, Vermont, in the Northeast Kingdom. The Hayden family is thought to have perished under the vengeful curse of William Hayden's mother in law, Miss Dale. And you see, Miss Dale tried to be a good mother in law and lent her daughter's husband large sums of money to go towards the family's business. Instead, Hayden Sr. squandered it away supporting his lavish lifestyle and refused to pay the money back. So things really just went from bad to worse when Miss Dale suspected her son in law was poisoning her.
That's right.
So legend has it that on her deathbed in 1806, Miss Dale cursed her son in law and his family, saying that the third generation would be the last of the Hayden line. In 1854, William Hayden Jr. built the mansion that still stands today, looking the same as it did more than 150 years ago. He is thought to have been a party animal, much like his father, as plans for building and including a spring suspended dance floor on the third floor to add a little more bounce to his ballroom dances.
Yeah, they called it a ballroom that bounced. That's crazy. That's crazy. And when you look at the house, it looks like it's 2 stories. But then you take another look and you see what's going on that third floor. Please continue, Christina.
Well, Miss Dale's curse from the grave came true because by 1927, according to various accounts, the entire Hayden family had gradually died due to inexplicable illnesses, and therefore the curse was complete. But the Hayden family, along with Miss Dale and all are all buried in the family cemetery in Albany, and some have said they see ghostly lights near the property, thought to be spirits of slaves that perhaps were buried in unmarked graves in the field near the farm. But some say phantom violin music can sometimes be heard in and around the old mansion, probably a flashback to one of the lavish parties during the happier times. And well, the moral of the story, Jimmy, is to always pay back your mother in law.
You always pay back your mother-in-law. Do you have any pictures of the house?
No, but you do. I'm ready
Oh,
for you to share yours.
stop with that. Oh, okay. I thought you had some historical images, maybe some spooky black and white images. I don't
The
have it.
good stuff.
But when you see the house over the years, because okay, so let me give everybody the lay of the land a little bit. And Christina, that was a great summary of the history of the Hayden House. Um, Albany, which I had said at the beginning of the show, it's like 5 houses, right? It's a very small little, and Route 14 goes north and south. So when you look at Route 14 and you look at the houses that are there, it's just a few, it's a sprinkling, and they do have a mortuary. And but anyway, There's a little creek, and the Black Creek River runs, and there's a tributary that comes off. Yes. Okay. All right. Everybody take a good look. The 4 chimneys that you see at the top, that is the ballroom on the 3rd floor. Okay, so that's the off to the left is the 2-story brick addition. Behind that was a wooden addition that was added onto the house, and that was the servants' quarters. Okay, and behind that there were numerous barns. Everything over the years burnt down except for the house. The brick portion of the house stayed up. Everything else got burnt down. The house was abandoned for large stretches of time. And there were rumors that it was haunted, but because it sat empty, people would go and check out the house. And there were all kinds of stories about ghosts and things, and like you said, violin music and stuff coming from the 3rd floor from the ballroom. This went on for years. Now, if we back up, William Henry Hayden had acquired so much land in this area of Albany that he found himself in like serious financial trouble. His mother-in-law, her name was Mercy Dale, that you just talked about, was giving him money to keep him out of trouble, but he never paid her back. And she kept this up. He kept asking for more. And then she gets sick. She falls. She's ill. And it was a long illness. And then she turned around and she started telling family members and other people that William was poisoning her, right? And it makes sense. He's in debt to his mother-in-law. Makes a lot of sense. He's in financial trouble. She knew everything. Why not silence her? Well, when the end came, the curse. Now, I've got a direct quote from the curse. All right. And this came from her daughter. And her daughter said, "The Hayden name shall die in the 3rd generation, and the last to bear the name shall die in poverty." All right. Now, she didn't want to be buried in the cemetery with the rest of the Haydens. She got buried somewhere else. And there's also some ghostly things that go around the cemetery as well. A lot of ghost hunters and things go on in this area because of the Hayden curse. So in 1854, William Hayden Jr. built the house that you see here. Okay, his father was in debt. That was another house. William Hayden Jr. built the house that you see here, and the one that still stands today. He was not aware of the curse that he and his aging father, which was now the focus of their family, but he wasn't aware of that when he built the house. Now, in 1910, a horse-drawn hearse carried the final remains of William Henry Hayden, the last in the male line of his family, along the South Albany Road. We'll go into that in just a minute. I'll show you. In the village cemetery, curtains were drawn across the mansion's windows in tribute, even though the extravagantly furnished house had remained without a tenant for 20 years. Okay? That was all the way up until 1910. Some would remember Mercy Dale's curse upon the family, that the Hayden family name would die and pass into oblivion. What would happen now to the vacant, dark mansion with its wide fields and impressive barns? Where was there a hidden family fortune in the house? Some had talked about that, and there were rumors about that. Well, the only Hayden eventually left alive was Henry's daughter, Armenia. All that was left of her inheritance was an unsavory family reputation and a number of unpaid debts. Due to illness and humiliation, she decided to live out her final days in Waterville, Maine, where she died alone in poverty on February 20th, 1927. She was the third generation of the Hayden family and the final victim of Mercy Dale's curse. Wow.
Dang.
Wow. And she's in this picture too, as well. Now, if that isn't crazy enough, okay, are you guys ready? There's the picture. Now let's go ahead and share this. There's the Hayden family home today. There it is.
And is it a museum now? Like, can people go in and enter it?
No. It is owned. It's changed ownership many, many times. No, somebody lives there. Look, they've got their clothes on a clothesline off to the side. There's a pickup truck over here. And the crazy part about this is these are granite walls. Those are granite. Okay, these are granite pillars. And all of this at one point was very extravagant. And there's the granite gates, right? They still stand today. And look at the circular driveway, right? You came in here and you went out. At one point, this was very, as you can imagine, very elegant. This was a very well-to-do family. And there is the house as it sits today. It's got a new roof. It's got a nice new roof. But that's the third story ballroom. And there's the four chimneys that I was talking about. You can see those there. And there it sits. Now, if you go... Now, back in the day, there were... I talked about this earlier. Human smuggling rings, right? So here's the house. Here are the locations of the barns that burnt down over the years. And then if you back off of this is how isolated this is. There's a house over here. There's a house over here. There's Wiley Road. I had to chase all of this down in the National Register today to find the location of the house. And then I eventually found it. And there it is as it sits today.
I wonder if the current residents are being haunted. Do you know anything about that, Jimmy?
Yeah, look. There are stories after story of people that came in, bought the house cheap.
A little too cheap, huh?
One family came in, bought everything, all the acreage, $25,000. Yeah, it was resold again for $35,000. It was put in the National Register of Historic Places in 1977. I even found the paperwork for that, by the way. And for me to find the house, should I say this? You know, I mean, I don't want to disturb the people that are there and where it is. But I had to do a lot of work because the house itself, its address is just listed as Highway 14. They don't put a number on it. So you can't. So you have to go, and Highway 14 goes up and down the length of Vermont. And you have to go and do what I did, which was look at every single house in and around Albany for 20 miles above and below the town. So anyway, I was able to chase it down through official paperwork and eventually found the location, and I found the house, and there it is.
I think when a house is haunted, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when the house is haunted, the realtor has to tell the people that it is.
No. Actually, that's not. It should be law. It should be, right? Some states, if there is a death in the house, it has to be listed. But
Mhm.
that's not in every state. That's not a federal law. That is a state to state law. And so, it doesn't have to be disclosed. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yes. It's that should be into law. Who do I complain to? Because every state needs to, needs to make that a thing.
Yeah, because I live in a haunted house that I didn't know about.
Oh, about all your shoes falling off the rack?
Still doing it.
Oh
I
man,
got, I
they
got it,
just like your style. They're just like, hey, wear these shoes today. It
man.
matches your outfit. Wear these ones tomorrow.
I do. That's these right here. These Adidas. You see these?
Mm-hmm.
Fell off the shelf last night, so I'm wearing them today.
They're like, these are the ones.
Yeah, that's the deal I made with the Ghost. It's a deal I made. If you're going to pick out my shoes, that's what I'm going to wear. And that's what I'm wearing today. These were the ones that were on the floor. I got to say, though, really comfortable.
Well, like Scarface says, stylish ghosts. They're probably like a fashionista of some kind.
Yeah. These are
Maybe.
Adidas Court Advantage basketball shoes. Man, these things are really, really. Ow!
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Ow! I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. I'm just
Bless
gonna
your
leave a
heart.
mark. Ow!
But it'll be a nice memory that you were showing off your Adidas. So while we're on the conversation about
That was the
curses,
even. You talk some smack. Take that, church. Pow!
talk some smack and you get smacked.
I did.
But let's talk about the the Abenaki curse.
Oh, the Indian curse.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go now.
Do you
Okay.
want to?
No, go ahead. But I'm just.
I
I
gotta
keep.
share my screen.
You do it.
I am sharing my screen, so go ahead and get started while I share a
Okay,
visual for
I'm
people.
pulling mine down. See, so now mine cannot accidentally get shown. Here is the point that I keep going back to. This is ancient history. This goes back a long ways. And back when the state was founded, it was the action was already underway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, come on, start it, please. I want to hear your version of this curse.
No, I want to hear your version.
Let's see. I started the last one, so you're gonna start this one.
I did the Hayden House.
Okay. So, for those that are like, what's going on? We're talking about this spring that's believed to have healing properties, and it's called the Brunswick Springs in Vermont. And the story of the curse begins in 1748 when the Abenakis lived near the springs and relied on the natural healing powers of the waters. When a soldier was wounded in the French and Indian War, his Abenaki companions brought him to this spring. But then it states that legend has it that they brought him and put him under the springs, and lo and behold, he was cured. Now, the soldiers supposedly returned to the springs after the war to bottle and sell the water. And the Abnakis objected to the sale of something natural. And in the struggle that ensued, legend has it that an Abnaki man and a baby were killed. The child's mother, a sorceress, is said to have cursed the springs, stating that Indians said anyone who tried to profit from the springs would fail. And let's just say that many people believe that curse to be true. So a hotel was built near the river when he could where he could capitalize on tourism for those that wanted to be healed by the waters. So Dr. Roll, a dentist, owned the hotel, and after he enlarged it in 1849, it burned to the ground. He rebuilt it shortly after the turn of the century and then died in 1910. The land was sold to John Hutchins, who turned over the hotel and changed the name. 3 fires in 3 years soon arose suspicion. Pinecrest Lodge burned in 1929, and Hutchins had two more hotels built on the land in 1930 and 1931 before he just gave up. Records list combustion of paint fumes in a storage room as the cause of one of the fires, but causes of the other two have never been determined. Many people that live near the spring still believe that there is a strange feeling to the place, as two men hanged themselves in the area, and one woman drove her car into the lake and drowned. And there was even a man's body found where he had hanged himself overlooking the lake as well. So tests have been done on the water properties, but there were no unique results or anything that caught the scientists' eye as to why it may be considered healing water. But nonetheless, people to this day claim that it has healed their ailments.
I love this. I love this. And I don't want to name names here. I don't want to get into trouble. Have you experienced natural healing waters?
No.
Okay. Have you talked to anybody that has gone to said area to be
Yes.
healed?
Yes.
Right? Right? And so did these I don't know if they were friends or whoever. Did they say that they were healed?
Yes.
Exactly. What do you
And
make of that? Because then I'll share my experience.
well, when we look at water to begin with, it already has a very pacifying and cleansing mentality when people take showers, when they clean things up, when they take a nice dip into rivers and streams and things like this. But then you do have a few stories of certain locations. For instance, hot springs, that's a very specific one where people go in and they feel healed when they come out. And there's a lot of minerals involved in places such as hot springs or this spring that we're talking about here in Vermont. And could it be that those minerals are somehow entering our skin, entering our system, and healing us in some way? And supposedly, there's also energies from the earth that are doing that type of healing as well. And this is something that's been mentioned time and time again across the globe, where there are tribesmen that believe that there are certain places that contain water that heal people, while others are just kind of like your average lake or river. But I think that it's something worth considering. I don't necessarily think that just doing basic scientific tests can prove that it's healing or not. One example is in Italy, I believe, but there's like I think it's called like the Fountain of Youth, and I could
Mhm.
be wrong.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
everywhere. It's
it's everywhere.
it's Egypt, it's Italy, it's Spain, Palm Springs. You know why Palm Springs is called Palm Springs?
No.
Take a guess, right? Okay. And so these locations, these stories, and the history, it's all. You're right. It's all around the world. Period. Right. Okay. Now.
Well, you also have a hydrothermally heated water worldwide is supposed to be healing. I mean, look at Iceland. That's a really good example. But it is also definitely therapeutic where you feel relaxed. And when you relax, your body also naturally heals itself as
Well,
well.
so you can get that from a jacuzzi in your backyard. You don't
There's like
necessarily have to
chlorine.
go to a mineral springs. Yeah, but you get out of the jacuzzi going, man, I feel pretty good. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Is it up here? And if it is up here, does it matter? Right? Does it matter? Does it matter? If you feel better, right? The issue that I have with it, like this, there's history involved. But then to have others say miracles happen, right? You will be cured of an illness if you jump in that water. And I have issues with that. Therapeutic, hot, Mineral Springs, yeah, take a dip. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be therapeutic. Sure. Curing of a disease. That's where, and I've had a few friends make that mistake.
Make that mistake. What do you mean by that?
Going to get cured and didn't get cured.
Oh, okay. So it sounded very dark the way you said it. I'm just like, what ended up happening
Well,
to that?
I can't go further with that. I can't. But yeah, where you just yeah. Anyway. But I love this story, and also with the area and the strangeness that's going on there. You have all of this tragedy that is around it too as well. Can I mention? Hold on. You can tell there's something in my throat. We didn't talk about Ben and Jerry's.
Well,
We didn't talk about Ben and Jerry's. We didn't talk about the spiderweb farm.
Well, we have a few minutes left. We can definitely cover it right here, right now. Let's do it right here, right now. Ben and Jerry's. So, no,
Yes.
with Ben and Jerry's, it's actually a factory that you can visit and tour at in Vermont. So, if you are an ice cream fanatic, such as myself, if I were to ever go to Vermont, yes, I would go to Ben and Jerry's. Well, this is not my favorite brand of ice cream. I'm gonna say it. It's not my favorite, but I like it. There's some good flavors, like their Cherry Garcia is a solid 10 for me.
Man, their peanut butter cup.
No. But here's a really interesting fact about Ben and Jerry's. While we still have the time, they give their ice cream waste to local farmers who feed it to their hogs.
Yep.
The hogs seem to like every flavor except mint Oreo.
Isn't that nuts?
No, because mint, it like burns your throat. So it's gonna burn the poor hog's throat as well. And I am 1000% with them. I cannot stand mint chocolate chip ice cream. It's like you're having chocolate and toothpaste. And I know people are gonna hate me for that, but I love ice cream. I have so many cartons of ice cream, and mint chocolate chip is like not on my list of foods to eat.
There are mint chocolate chip fanatics out there.
And you know what? And I just insulted all of them.
I don't get it. No, I do not do mint chocolate chip ice cream. No. I don't do mint anything except for mouthwash.
I was gonna say like gum, but yeah,
gum. Okay, gum. A Tic Tac. All right, but that's not in my ice cream, man.
No, this brand is my new favorite next to Bluebell.
What is it?
It's a Talenti.
Oh, Talenti. Yeah,
it's so soft and smooth.
Yeah. That's Italian. Gelato. Mm. Yeah, that's good. Okay, Christina.
Mm-hmm.
The Knight's Spiderweb Farm. Is that the craziest? I mean, out of everything that you've ever heard, right?
Let me share my screen for people that have no idea what we're talking about. There is literally a farm for spiders. Okay? And you're thinking, what the heck is it for? Well, it's to make art. So these spiders are placed in these little boxes and they create webs, obviously, as spiders do. And then it is sold to the public. And so Knight's Spiderweb Farm is probably like, if you're going to go to Vermont, you better go visit this place because you are seeing spider art. And it sounds incredibly uncommon because it is. It is the only place that does this on the entire planet Earth. And it was also a one-man operation run by an elderly gentleman, William Knight, who called himself Spiderweb Man, and which is an awesome name. And he passed away in 2017, but his business lives on.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's a cool dude. This place is, there he is right there. And so he would frame. Here, I'll I have a couple of images too as well. Is mine? Oh, there it goes. That's framed art, people. Oh man, I'm showing my whole screen. Oh, everybody's going to see what I'm surfing. See now everybody can go and go. Oh, so Jimmy's doing this and this and this. He's got Harley Davidsons up there and
So,
guitars.
what do you think about this business of buying spider web art?
No,
And
I
are
think
you
it's
for
awesome.
it? Or you okay? Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I like spider webs. Okay, so
Until you walk through one, and then you can't
listen,
find it when it's on your face.
in my garage for the last 6 months, and I'm still bummed out about this that I did this, but I did. So I had this black widow on the far wall living there. And so I would walk over, and it was under she would run into this tube of Christmas paper, right? She would run down the top of the tube, and she would, so we played this little game. And this was going on for 6 months. She's starting to get pretty big, So I would go out to the garage, get in my car. I'd look over. She's there. I'd say hello. I'd get in the car. I'd split, come back. Is she there or not? I'd get out of the car. I'd walk over. I took a couple of pictures. She'd run down into the tube and hide. And we did this thing for like 6 months. And I'm like, man, you're going to have babies.
You're like the real life Charlotte's Web.
Yeah. I don't need 10,000, black widows in my garage. I said, you've got to go. You've got to go. And so I put on some gloves, and she ran down into the tube, and I took the tube, and I went outside in the grass, in the bushes. I shook the tube, and she went out, not into the bush, onto the grass in this little patch of dirt, and she just stood there. And I walked in. I felt so bad. And now, for the last couple of weeks, I walk out in the garage and she's not there. And I'm just like, man, I feel so bad. I do. I feel bad. I totally took her out of her thing, and we had this thing going on for months. And I feel horrible. I went out there and looked for her the other day. Didn't see her. Yeah. Kind of bummed.
Mark Tasaka, thank you so much for the super sticker. It says, Christina and Jimmy, glad I could catch your live stream. Please keep up the amazing work. Smiley face.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, maybe Lucky can help you with your dilemma, because he says, I raise tarantulas. Spiders are awesome.
Yeah, spiders are awesome.
Spiders are awesome, like over there.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm with you on that part. I have no issues with them though. I'm not scared. No, they don't bother me. Now, am I going to have a spider crawl on? No, I'm not going there. And I had no issues with the black widow hanging out in my garage. She was cool, but the thing is, they have the little cocoon. The next thing you know, you've got, 500. That I don't need. But I felt bad. I still do. Look, I'm still the guilt. I carry this guilt. She was out there in the dirt. What? And wasn't what I felt bad. I felt so bad. Christina, thank you so much. Tonight is Fader night, everybody. I'll see everybody on the show tonight. I have got not one, but two autographed Jason Quitt Egyptian Postures of Power books autographed. I'm going to give these away tonight to the two best calls on Fader night. So how cool is that?
That's very fun.
I've got another one. You want one? You want your own copy?
Well, I think you should give it away to the best caller. I think it's only fair. I can't get special treatment. But Jimmy, thank you so much for being my co-host today. Everyone that's listening, make sure to call in on Fader night tonight. Jimmy, I'm going to let you go, and I'll see you later. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone that watched this show live. Thank you to all the super chats, super stickers, To all my amazing moderators, YouTube members, and Patreon subscribers. I simply could not do this show without you. So I am so grateful for all of you. Tomorrow is Weekly Strange News with my guest co host, John Russell. It's going to be pretty fascinating. He is always a great person to speak to, so you do not want to miss that live show. So make sure to hit the notification bell on YouTube. Next week on Shifting the Paradigm, I have Emily Zarka, the host and one of the producers of the YouTube series Monstrum. We had an incredible conversation. You also do not want to miss that show. That is it for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.